Welcome to this Sunday's Gospel Reflection. I can still see that little child who was having such a great fun wading in the streamers and colored confetti covering the village square during festa time. The piazza was super crowded, but the enchanted child wandered happily away from his mum, picking and kicking the colorful papers and shiny streamers from the ground, driven by an intense curiosity, until he realized that he had wandered too far from his mum. He froze on the spot, terrified, in panic, looking around for his mum, whom he couldn't see. But all the time, his mum was vigilantly watching her child, deliberately waited to see what he would do next, until she could not take it any longer and ran to his rescue to save him from the crowd. Zacchaeus was a rich crook, small in stature, but unscrupulous in exploiting his own people. He was a curious little man. And when Jesus came to his town, the crowds gathered round him, preventing Zacchaeus from even catching a glimpse of him. The story of Zacchaeus reminded me of that little child lost in the crowd. His heart was burning with curiosity. Zacchaeus wanted to see who Jesus was, but got lost in the crowd. Like the little child, he was small in stature, excited in the pursuit of the shiny coins and money and exciting riches that he accumulated. He was searching for something, and yet he had not realized that deep down he was thirsty not for something more. He was thirsty for someone. And like Zacchaeus, we find ourselves unable to see Jesus for two reasons. We are too small, not just in size, but in our heart and in our mind. And like Zacchaeus, we are small, limited, narrow-minded people. Our minds and our hearts are much too small to grasp the beauty and goodness of Jesus. We are caught up in our own pettiness and smallness, in our self-interest. And like Zacchaeus, we want to grab what we can just to ensure our success, just to ensure our survival in this big, enormous, threatening piazza of life. And like Zacchaeus, also we are caught and carried away by a crowd who, like us, is thirsty to find someone who will give meaning to their lives. But a crowd is always a crowd. It always ends up hiding what it is seeking. It ends up being blind to recognize the one whom it is seeking and even following. How often we end up conditioned and blinded by what people, fashion, culture, media, politics, they dictate to us. How often we just follow the trends, the values of what we call society, and we become anonymous numbers, seeking comfort in being part of the majority. The majority. Do we have the courage, like Zacchaeus, to climb above the heads of the crowd, to seek a higher place from where we can get a glimpse of the real Jesus rather than slavishly clap for an invisible and non-existent popular hero? And in climbing up that tree, Zacchaeus was taking a decisive step towards an inner freedom to discover not just who Jesus was, he was to discover who he himself was, with all the goodness, all the beauty as yet hidden beneath his crookedness, his sinfulness. Because he was not overcome by the crowd, Jesus saw Zacchaeus half hidden in the branches. Jesus never sees his followers as just crowds or cultivated fans. His reaction to crowds was always pity, because crowds can be anonymous prisons of captivated people. Jesus sees only precious persons who are indeed broken and in pain, but seeking life. He never sees an anonymous crowd of blind supporters worshipping him. And that is what he saw perched on the sycamore tree, a broken man in pain and seeking life in spite of his wealth. Jesus picked Zacchaeus from the crowd to reveal to him who he was called to be, in spite of his smallness. Not just the smallness of the body, but the smallness of his spirit, his brokenness, his pettiness. And so he invited himself to Zacchaeus' home so he could reveal to him the gifts of greatness and generosity that were already there in his heart and soul. It is this greatness that surfaced in Zacchaeus when he said, "Behold, half of my possessions, Lord, I shall give to the poor. I have extorted anything from anyone, I shall repay it 4 times over." And because Zacchaeus wanted to see who Jesus was, Jesus in turn wanted to help Zacchaeus to see himself who he was. Zacchaeus wanted to see the real Jesus from the inside, and Jesus also saw Zacchaeus from the inside. He wanted to go to his house not just to visit, but to stay there in his house. And what started as a seemingly casual act of superficial curiosity on the part of Zacchaeus ended up in the deepest encounter with Jesus and in the discovery of who he himself really was. Not just a thief, not just a sinner, but a deep well of goodness and generosity. Do we have the will, the courage of Zacchaeus to climb just a little bit above all that the world does to prevent us from seeing Jesus? If we only had the courage not to remain trapped by the crowd around us, if only we had the courage to rise above what others say, what they dictate or impose on us, to see who Jesus really is, oh, then we will start seeing ourselves with the eyes of Jesus. And seeing the beauty of Jesus hidden in plain sight within us will reveal to us our own beauty. If we welcome Jesus as generously, sincerely as Zacchaeus did, he will indeed be our permanent guest who transforms us into his own image and likeness. Let me end up with a prayer. Come, come, Jesus, to our home. Stay with us today. Stay with us always. Do not hesitate to disturb our cozy but deadly comfort. Free us from being captives of how the others see us. Help us to discover and release the enchanting beauty that is hidden in plain sight, right in the heart of each one of us and of our brothers and sisters who unfortunately remain too hidden in the crowd. God bless you and thank you.